Stampers, this is Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. This is made using the Back on Your Feet stamp set that was in our annual catalog. It's super cute, and we're going to make a super cute card with it today. Let's go ahead and get started. So here we are, we're down on my desk. That hostess code you see there, if you use that, you're going to get my customer appreciation PDF for free. You just place a $30 or more order, and within 48 hours I send that right out to you. Of course, all of my card bases are made by just taking our standard 8.5 by 11. I'm going to cut it in half and then score it in half and then fold on that score line, and that's our card base. So we always get 2 cards out of each and every base piece of paper. So there's that. Again, this is 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4, 4 by 5 1/4 for the inside, 4 by 5 1/4 for the outside. I have cut some DSP. So this one is, I think it's 1 1/4, and then this is a 1/2 inch. And these are just my leftover. I know I said before, I've always got these like 2-inch strips left over from all of my 6 by 6. And so I'm starting to use my 2-inch strip. I've also die cut this shape from our layered nesting labels, I believe they're called. These are super useful. I use them a lot. They've got the stitched shapes on both sides, so you can use the positive and the negative of them. But they don't just make this shape. And what's really cool about these things is you can do different things with them. Like this one, I used the largest piece and I cut out one of their die cuts. Okay, can you see that? And then I went and I cut it. So I just cut a little off the top, and then a little off the top again. I'm going to throw away this middle piece, and then I can take and fold this over, and it makes a pocket. I don't know if you can see that, but that's a super cute little pocket that you could put on the front of a card just by using that die. Another thing you can do is off the end of it, you can die cut it once, and then you can move the die cut up and then cut again, and you get all these cute little chevron pieces. And then today what we're going to be doing is just cutting off the end, and I'm going to have mine actually come in from the side. You could also have it come down from the top and just cut it straight across here. You could also mount it on another color if you wanted to give it a little bit of an extra pop. But I just went ahead and did it this direction. Like I said, I'm going to cut off this edge so that I have my side piece. I've also punched out some of our leaves. I've done those in Mossy Meadow, and then I'm going to do these ones in Old Olive. Those of you that have been following me for a while know that we got a puppy a while back. I forgot how much work a puppy is. It's like having a baby in the house. Using the Back on Your Feet stamp set. I've already got these mounted on blocks, and so I'm going to go ahead and start with our Sloth. And I'm going to stamp him in Memento black ink onto this stitched label that I punched or die cut out. There's our Sloth. And then while I'm stamping, this is going to be our outside. So what I'm going to do is stamp this down in the corner. And I'm going to take the word sigh. I'm going to put that up here. Oh, and then our inside, I have Hope Things Get Better Soon. So let's go ahead and stamp that too. Then we'll have all of our stamping out of the way. I love using the grid paper because it allows me to stamp off the edge, but it also, I can use the grid lines to keep everything straight. When I mounted my stamps, what I did was I set it on the grid paper on a line, and then I set my block over it, arranging that straight on a line. And so that makes it so that my sentiments are all straight. I'm over here just washing these off really quickly using my Stampin' scrub. I love the Stampin' scrub because it's really super easy to use. I have this one a little bit wet with our Stampin' Mist cleaner. So when I go to clean my stamps, I just easily rub here where it's wet and then here where it's dry, and we're good to go. So I know we've come out with some other cleaning things, but for my red rubber, that's still my favorite. Unless, of course, I'm using the Stamparatus, and then I'll use the chamois, but that's really cool. Oh, and then if you're using the photopolymers, oh my gosh, you need this. Like, hop on over and order it right now, because this is amazing. I use this on my photopolymer stamps. I stamped in a lovely lipstick, which is a bright red that normally would just totally tint my stamps. And I stamped, I cleaned it off normal, and then I cleaned it off with this, and it took all the ink right out of my stamp. It wasn't stained anymore, which I thought was awesome. And the first couple times I used it, I like didn't clean it off over there first. I just went straight to this. Don't want to do that. You want to make sure that you clean it off on your chamois or your Stampin' Scrub something, and then go to this, because it's still going to pull more red off and it turns it really pink. And I don't know if I should have or not, but I took it over to this sink and I washed it off. I like just ran water all over it, took all the red out of it, and then I just refilled it with this. And then it was like brand new. So I really highly recommend this if the photopolymer stamps staining bothers you as much as it bothered me. Okay, for the inside, let's go back to our card. I'm gonna use this on the edge like this. And so I'm just gonna come in with my snail. And I'm gonna go straight down the side. And again, I can use my grid paper to line up and make sure we're straight across. And it's a little long. I know I did that on purpose because I like to be able to clip off the ends and make sure that it fits perfectly. Okay, this is going to go on the inside of our card. Oh, and then I wanted to put one more little leaf in the corner. Grab a scrap. I use these to store all my scraps. All my papers are in hanging files in a file drawer. And then all of my papers are in there in the hanging files, and then in the front of each one I have my little scrap bin. And this is a Pendaflex 99849. I've had a couple of people ask me, but I love these things. They work great because I find if I have all of my colors together of all of my scraps, I don't want to dig through a pile to try to find what I'm looking for. I would much rather just be able to reach over for the color I need and be able to grab a scrap. I find I use them a whole lot more that way. I'm going to use a little bit of liquid glue on the leaves. And I'm just going to stick this one down in the corner. I like to decorate the insides of my card. I think it makes it look a lot better, more professional. You wouldn't walk into a card store, we'll leave that unnamed, and have a totally blank inside. Not usually. So then I need, oh, snail, right under my nose. Isn't that always the way? I'm going to adhere my very vanilla layer. And this is what I thought I was doing. Then putting on the DSP. Now again, I probably should have adhered this before, so I could have trimmed from the back. And then we have our Sloth. Now I colored him using Stampin' Blends. Now I came in with the crumb cake, the light and the dark. I used a dark old olive for the leaves. I used a light seaside spray for my shadow, and then a light basic black for his nails. So let's go ahead and get him colored. Normally I'd use the light and the dark, but these leaves were so little that I don't think it's going to make that much difference. Let's bring in some dark soft suede so we can get the little branch he's laying on. His nails with this light black. Now when you color him, you'll notice that he's got a cast on his leg, so I want to leave that one leg non-colored. This is my dark crumb cake. Now I'm just going to kind of flick in from the edges with the dark, and then I'm going to put the light in the middle. And because I'm going to go right smack dab over the top, I don't have to make sure I'm exactly at the edge. I can always just go over it with my light. And now I'm making small swirls, and that's so that it blends the colors. We want to make sure we're laying down lots of ink. The actual trick is you want it to bleed all the way through the back. So you should notice it's going to go all the way to the back side. So that's another good reason to have your grid paper underneath. Now I'm going to get his legs good and colored, and I'm going to go around the edge. I'm leaving it kind of light in the middle because again that gives me just another bit of shading. If I didn't get quite light enough in the middle, I can come back with the color lifter And we can run that across the middle, and that will help lift a little bit of the color as well. I'm going to use that when I come back after doing this. This is, like I said, the light. Oh, this one's Balmy Blue. Last time I did Seaside Spray. But I'm just kind of flicking around the outside edge just to give it a little bit of a shadow, very lightly. When I was doing Scrapbook University, I don't know if any of you remember that, I think EK Success was who put it out, but we were told that we wanted to ground our images because this one seems to be just kind of floating out in the air, and putting a little bit of coloring down underneath it or around it is what they call grounding. Okay, so now that I've got it all the way around, I'm going to come back with the color lifter one, and I'm just going to do some circles all the way around the edge. And this is just going to blur the edges some so that they're not quite as defined. And again, it will take a little bit of time for it to bleed, but as it does, it'll bleed out to the edges and it will soften that edge. I don't know if you can see on here. If I zoom it in really close, you can see that it's not quite as rough on the edges. It's nice and soft, and that's from using the color lifter after I colored. Okay, I adhered him with some Stampin' Dimensionals. Now this one I did not sponge the edge. On this one I did, so I don't know if you can see that. I took a sponge dauber and some Mossy Meadow ink and ran it around the edge just a little bit to define the edges of that. This one I didn't. I just wanted to see what the difference was because I am going to come in and lay the leaves underneath, and so that's going to pop it a little bit too. So it won't be exactly the vanilla on vanilla that it looks like right now. And I'm just going to slide it underneath. I bumped into the dimensional, so I had to make sure I wiggled it a little so that it wasn't hitting that. And again, I'm using liquid glue because it gives me that wiggle time. And I'm also doing things in threes. That's another art thing, is you usually want to do stuff in odd numbers. 3 is quite common. It's supposed to be more pleasing to the eye. I don't know all the specifics on it. I just know I was told to do that, and so I do. Because I'm more of a crafter than an artist. That's why I love stamping, because the artwork is pretty much already done. And Stampin' Up! Gives us some fabulous stuff to work with. So there's our card. Oh, and I don't know if I mentioned, this designer series paper in the back is from the Garden Trellis. I dropped the name of it, but that Garden DSP. And then there's our inside. So I hope you liked today's card. We right now are working out of our annual catalog. Hopefully you already have one of these. It came out in June. I'm going to easily flip to the back here and find out the name of that DSP. Garden Lane. So it's the Garden Lane Designer Series paper. So this is the Customer Appreciation PDF, and what that means is everybody who places a $30 order or more is going to get the multi-page tutorial on how to make all 6 of these cards with step-by-step instructions and photos. I appreciate you joining me. I hope you loved today's card, and I hope you come back and join me next Monday at 2:30 as we make another Facebook Live. Thanks. Bye.